Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm Ryan with Propelio. Today we have Grant Kemp back in for episode 6.
Episode 6.
Of Grant, Teach Me Something.
I'm counting on that every week now.
He's like
that's what I work
Oh
up
my
to my
God.
entire
My-
week is
my
having you
week.
sing to me.
Oh, we can do that. So one thing, in real estate, you have all these strategies. If you're new to it, you're like wholesaling, and then you hear maybe all the big rah-rah guys in the corner talking about owner financing, subject to. So today, Mr. Kemp.
Today we're going to learn about Subject 2.
Woo!
This is something that a couple of people have asked for on previous Grant Teach Me Somethings as well. And I think it's important because it is, hands down, Subject 2, owner financing, it's the most complicated way to go about doing real estate, and we won't act like it's not, but there's so much money involved in it, and you get such great returns with Subject 2, and it's such a cool strategy. I really hitch my wagon to Subject 2 a lot. I talk a lot about having a bat belt and having different strategies that you can pull out at any time, but I like Subject 2 a lot. It's one of my favorites because with Subject 2, that's what enables you to essentially take over on payments, right? Where you don't have to have the money to buy a house. You can buy the house and just continue to pay that person's mortgage.
So real quick, what is the traditional 99.9% way of doing an investment property?
So 99.9% of the time, you're running into, okay, I've got a deal. I'm buying it at 70, 75, 80% of its value, and I'm going to go get a hard money loan, pay this person cash for it, fix and flip it. Maybe you go get a loan from your bank, pay cash for it, and go from there.
And I would say probably 1,000% of the people watching this are familiar with that strategy.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you should be. If you don't, that's what everybody gets. And then, and people want to get into real estate. A lot of times, your instinct is, okay, well, I want to get into real estate. I don't have the money. I don't have the ability to get a hard money loan. I don't have the ability to go get bank financing. So I'm going to become a wholesaler, right? I mean, that's one of the areas that a lot of people try to push into, not realizing that really to be a good wholesaler, you've got to know how to do all that stuff better than anybody else.
And you got to have the money.
But the initial pull is, hey, I don't have to have money for this. Subject 2 is similar in that way. You don't have to have money to get started in it. Now, you need to have money to remain in it. You need to have money to make sure that you can cover payments and stuff. But I bought my first 50, 60 houses literally without putting any dollar from my back pocket on the table to buy a house.
So real quick, let's get the elevator definition of subject to.
Subject 2 is short for the phrase, I'm going to buy your house, subject to the underlying mortgage staying in place as is. Okay, so in other words, it's taking over on payments, right? Subject to, I'm going to buy your house, but we're not going to transfer that mortgage out of your name. I'm just going to make the payments instead of you. Okay, subject to the underlying mortgage staying in place. So to really understand how to do that, there's a couple of things that we need to get from the get-go, which is, how does the bank financing model work? Like, let's understand that first, so that we can understand how we're plugging ourselves in to buy this house and become owners of the house, but not have any of the debt in our own name, which is the real big key here, right?
Okay.
So let's move over to the whiteboard and let's kind of dive right in, okay? So let's look at the traditional bank financing model. And I'm actually going to start over on your side, Ryan.
Okay.
So
Do I get to participate today?
yes, I will.
Where's Bill in this equation?
Bill is in this equation. We will bring Bill in, okay? So here's how we have. So in the traditional bank financing model, we have a bank over here, right? And what ends up happening is Bill wants to buy a house, okay? So Bill has, there's a house for sale. Oops, A? Yes, because house starts with the letter A. Okay.
I don't speak any enough languages to say yes or no.
So we've got a house, and then we've got Bill that wants to buy this house. So what happens is, Bill, you want to draw Bill for me? Bill's going to go right there. So Bill is going to buy this house. Now, if Bill wants to buy this house, what's he going to do? He's going to go to his bank, and he's going to ask them to give him a loan. He's going to ask them for the ability to finance this mortgage. Bill has got some awesome hair, and he's very strong. He's not Ross Perot.
Anyway, go ahead. That's Bill. Bill.
So what's going to happen is that the bank is going to approve Bill. and they're going to say, okay, I'll give you the money to buy this house, okay? So Bill is going to become the owner of the house. And actually, I'm going to separate out. I'm going to make our house smaller so I've got room to...
Because I drew Bill way too big.
Drew Bill so huge. So Bill is going to become the owner of the property, okay? Now, ownership of a property is defined by a warranty deed, okay? And I'm going to abbreviate that warranty deed. And if you want to write this up here in that corner, that would probably be good. I'm going to put WD right here. The warranty deed is what gives somebody actual ownership of a property. Now, what happens is now he owns the house, but he owes money to the bank, right? So what happens here is he's going to have a mortgage between him and the bank, and that mortgage is going to be made up of a couple of different documents. Now, we're in a deed of trust state being in Texas, okay? So that's what I'm going to write down here, but you can also just have mortgage for those mortgage states. But what we've got is we've got a deed of trust and a note. Okay, so you want to write deed of trust up there for me? So the deed of trust is what, well, let me start with the note. The note is what actually says, okay, I'm going to owe you $100,000 for the next 30 years at 3.5%, and that's going to be what my payment is, okay? The deed of trust, on the other hand, is the document that says that for the bank that, hey, if Bill does not pay the note as is described, we get to foreclose on Bill. That's what the deed of trust does. Now, the cool thing that we see here is we see that, you know, most of us just kind of assume and feel like, hey, if it's a person that owns the house, you know, the ownership of the house and the ownership of the debt are one and the same. But that's not true. We see that the ownership of the property is dictated by the warranty deed, and we see that the ownership of the debt is dictated by the note and deed of trust. And I just want to make real quick sure, are we still live here?
We should be.
Okay.
Yeah. So warranty deed, that's the ownership.
Right. And I'm actually going to have you,
Okay.
let's write that over here. I want to erase.
My bad.
No, you're good. That's perfect. That's exactly what we need to do.
But that's ownership.
Right. So we're going to erase the bank over here, the bank house, since y'all kind of get it. And I'm just going to write bank so that you kind of have that placeholder.
That's the ownership.
Ownership comes from the warranty deed.
And then the deed of trust, that's
the deed of trust is what allows the bank to foreclose. So we're going to say foreclosure instrument. That is the instrument that allows the bank to foreclose. Okay. Then, there you go. And we can just leave it at foreclose. That's what allows the bank to foreclose. And then we have a note or a mortgage, and those are what gives the actual terms of what's being paid back. So this is what the traditional bank financing model looks like. And again, we're separating out the fact that the ownership of a property is done through one document and the ownership of debt is done through another document. So in a subject to scenario, I'll draw a little square around this. We'll make that our...
And just to recap, this is just a traditional, I'm a homeowner.
Yeah, this is Wells Fargo. Yeah, this is Wells Fargo. Ebby Holiday sold me this house kind of model, right? This is what everybody does when they go out and buy a house. Now, for our traditional investor...
I'll give you $70,000 for your $200,000.
Exactly. And hey, if he only owes $70,000 over here, he's going to say, okay, cool, I'll let you buy it for $70,000. And the investor gives him $70,000. That $70,000 actually pays this note off, gets that wiped away, and then the warranty deed gets transferred over into our investor's hands, okay? So we've got our investor over here. This is you. Look how tall.
Don't draw a belly.
Look how tall and muscular and good looking you are. And you're so happy, and you've got long flowing hair, you wonderful investor, you. So this is you, okay? Now, in that traditional model, you would give him whatever, $70K, and then that warranty deed transfers over to you, and that $70K goes to paying off the bank, and that gets all released. Now this deed of trust right here, this is actually what creates the lien. You know, we talk about having liens on houses. That deed of trust is what actually creates that lien. That is the lien on your property. So usually this payoff amount is paying that away. We get rid of the bank, and then the warranty deed transfers over to our investor for the house, right? Ooh, I got this one right here. And then we've just gotten rid of that bank. But in this model with subject to, we don't ever, well, I say ever, we don't necessarily have to give money to our seller. That's one of the big, it's one of the big pluses here, because we're not going to pay that mortgage off. We're going to leave that mortgage in place.
Because in that last scenario, it was 70 grand lump sum, wipe this out, get the house.
Right, exactly. And we're just, for the sake of example, assuming that maybe they only owe $70,000 here, right? So what happens is we buy the house, we contract with them, subject to the underlying lien staying in place. So we say, yes, I will buy your house, and you will transfer that warranty deed over to me. But we're not going to pay off the bank. We're just going to keep making payments on your behalf. Okay? And that's the way that I want you to phrase it whenever you're talking to your sellers, is I don't want you to say we're going to take over on payments. Right. Because take over on payments can kind of imply a couple of things. Taking over on payments, one of the big implications that can come from that is this seller could get the impression that they're no longer responsible for payments. We need them to understand that their name is on the note. We need them to understand that their name is remaining on that note. And because of that, they're going to have this mortgage show up on their credit report. Because of that, if you, the investor, didn't make that payment, it really does fall on them next in line to make that payment. And if there is a foreclosure, guess whose record the foreclosure is going against?
So in a way, yes, so in a Sub2 model, Bill goes away, but he kind of doesn't.
Right.
And he's kind of like Bill the ghost.
He's a little bit of a ghost there. Yeah, I like your little
Ghost
Pac-Man ghost.
Ghost Bill.
Ghost Bill. There we go.
Because in name, he's still there. He's still in the mortgage. He's still all those things.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't get to live in the house.
Right.
Because it's not his house.
It's not his house anymore. The warranty deed dictates who's owning the house. So what we're going to do here is I'm actually going to erase all of this, and I'm going to draw a new picture with the, yeah, go ahead. Leave the deed of trust stuff up, but so we're going to draw a new picture. Now that you kind of understand that basic financing model, we're going to draw a new picture that kind of describes more visually in a better way how that subject to model works. Because Bill does actually have protection in this scenario. We aren't just saying, give me your house and hope that I'm going to keep paying it. That's not what this is about. We do want to make sure that Bill is still protected here. So what we're going to do is we've got the house that's up for grabs, right?
So are we starting over, or are we still building on the last model?
We're basically, we're a little bit of both.
Gotcha.
We're starting over and building on. I'm just going to build out what subject to looks
Got it.
like. And actually, I'm going to move this down a little bit so that we've got enough room for this to really make sense. So we've got our house. Now, you, the investor.
Or it could be an Adobe.
Because I started it with an A.
Mm-hmm.
You, the investor, you good-looking, strapping, muscular, unless you're a female, then just...
Females can be muscular.
Well, what are they? They want to be toned, right? They don't want to necessarily be muscular. Unless you want to be really muscular, then I'll give it to you. You got your long flowing hair, and you become the owner of this house. Now you are the owner of this house, okay? So we're going to set that over to the side because this is somewhat of the assumption of everything. We saw earlier how ownership kind of transfers over to you, the investor. Now we're putting the house over to this side. The reason why I want to do that is because we're going to start dictating how the actual financing of all of this occurs from a more technical standpoint. I mean, that's a very theoretical thing to say, yeah, we're just going to take over on payments. But where is that? How is that?
Which you never say.
Which you never say, yeah. Exactly. And just
Watch
to
episode 5.
re-clarify on that, I'm totally cool with us as investors talking to each other saying, hey, we're going to take over on payments. But when you're talking to your seller, you are what?
Not taking over.
You're making payments on their behalf. You're going to make payments on their behalf because this is not an assumption. The debt still remains in their name. We can talk about assumptions later. But here's what we've got. We've got a bank. Okay? And remember, that bank had a note and a deed of trust with Bill.
Right.
Right? And that deed of trust and note are going to stay there. Let me give Bill his awesome hair. Mm-hmm. That note and deed of trust, oops, I drew him in the wrong color. Well, whatever.
It doesn't matter.
Note and deed of trust, those stay. Now, what we're doing with Bill is we're trying to basically pass through Bill to get to the bank. So we actually are going to set that up to Bill. And what we do is we have what's called a DTSP, which is a deed of trust to secure performance.
I need to write that down.
You need to write that down. A deed of trust to secure performance. So there's an interesting kind of separation here of what's happening. You notice when we have this note, we have a deed of trust, and that deed of trust says, hey, if I don't do what's in that note, if I don't pay the payments that are in this note that you've given me, then you get to foreclose on me.
To secure payment?
To secure performance.
Performance.
Now, subject 2 is a little bit different because Bill isn't giving us a loan. He's not giving us a note, right? Our compensation to him for buying the house is performance. What we're giving him is the promise that we are going to continue paying this note for him. So we're not promising a note, but we are promising performance to continue paying that note.
Earlier you said, I'm not paying him anything, but sometimes do. Like a cash for keys situation, would that be like kind of not under the table, but beside the table, or would that be built into the contract?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
That's
a really good question. I'm glad you bring it up now because here's the thing: is that when we buy this house, subject to the term of subject to is specific to buying a house for what they owe, right, and taking over subject to that underlying mortgage. But let's say, what did we say? He owed 70 on this, I think. So let's say that he owes 70 over here, but let's say that the house is worth, 150. Well, there's room there. There's room to make a payment to Bill. So why don't you, right? You can give Bill money. You can put that as a cash contribution on your contract. So on the contract, like on the Trek contract, it's got 3 fields. It's got a field for cash portion, it's got a field for finance portion, and then the total together.
So hypothetically, they're like, yeah, I'm cool with this scenario, but I want at least 25 to walk away.
Right.
You're like, do my due diligence, run my comps, run my numbers. Okay, your payoff is 70, the house is worth 150, maybe it's worth 200, whatever. Yeah, I can do that. So you do the Sub2 contract of 105?
Yeah. Well, is that, you said 25? So that'd be 95.
95?
If it was. So yeah, that's what it would be. The total purchase price.
I was testing you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad. I'm paying attention. The total purchase price is going to be what they owe plus whatever cash portion that you're giving them. Now, there's a lot of technicalities that go into, what all is happening here, and this is something we're trying to give the basic overview of subject to. I've got an entire academy's worth of training on how the technicalities of this work.
Well, let me give you a quick softball just in that scenario. So the contract's 95, they want 25. Do I need to bring 95 to the closing table?
No, if the contract is 95 and they want 25,000 and they owe 70,000, how much are they bringing to the table?
They, as in the investor.
I'm sorry, the investor. How much are you bringing to the table?
I don't know.
You are bringing.
Teach me.
We're going to wait for somebody to comment on there and see if they get it with their wonderful math. But I'm on a delay, so I can't tell. So there's 7. You're bringing 25. You're bringing 25 to the table, and then that 70 is being taken care of for you by the mortgage that's already in place.
Got it.
Okay, that's the beauty of subject to, is that the whatever debt is already here is in their name. You didn't have to go to a hard money lender. You didn't have to go to a bank. You didn't have to get approved for that $70,000. All you had to do was convince this seller, yes, I'm the right person who will continue to pay this for you. And that's one of the cool things about subject to, is if you look at traditional financing, I think they're down to like 8 now that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac will allow you to have at any one time mortgage. You can have up to 8 at any one time. Dude, you can buy 8 in a month easy with subject to. I say easy, it's not easy, but you can buy 8 in a month and do that every single month. Because all you're doing is getting approved by your seller saying, look, hey seller, I will continue to pay this. And if they agree, then you're good to go. Your financing is taken care of. Now, you pointed out saying, hey, $25,000 is what we'll give you down. I will go on record and say I have only once given my seller more than $5,000 on a subject to transaction. I gave one seller $11,000 because they showed me an invoice from a moving company that was going to move them to like Wisconsin or something like that, and it was for $9,500, and so I gave them the money for that and an extra $1,500.
It's funny you said that because I've only done one Sub2, and we gave them $25,000. Anyway.
So I think it's really important for you to understand that subject twos are really prevalent, especially like in foreclosure, right? Because what is their better option? Is their better option that they're behind on payments here and they're going to get foreclosed on and lose everything? Or is their better option to sell you the house, allow you to catch those payments up? They may be $6,000, $7,000 behind on payments. Maybe you catch those payments up to the bank. You pay the bank directly for that, pulls them out of foreclosure, and in return, you get ownership of the house. Now, they don't have a foreclosure on their record.
Right.
And as time goes on, as you're making those payments on their behalf, their credit score is going to increase. Because remember I said, their name is going to remain on that credit report, right? Because the note is in their name. So as you're making those payments to the bank, it's showing on-time payments for them. It's going to help their credit report. So it's a win-win situation for them. In those scenarios, I hardly ever give them money, but if I do, it's only going to be up to like $5,000. $1,500, $2,000, help them get, a down payment for a rent someplace, that kind of thing. That's going to be reasonable. But let's get back into here. We've got a deed of trust to secure performance. That deed of trust says, hey, you're not giving me a mortgage, Bill. Bill, you're not giving me a mortgage, but I am giving you a promise that I'm going to pay your note. And so that's what that DTSP does. Now, what we see here in this order is the order of lien positions. What we see here is that first lien is owned by the bank, because this was filed first. This was filed a long time ago. As we all recall, lien position is determined solely and entirely by what day and time that lien was filed. So first lien is owned by the bank. Then, by Bill giving us that property with the DTSP, he technically owns that second lien position to us. What I mean by that is that if we were to stop paying this mortgage like we said we were going to pay, that's where this DTSP comes into play, because Bill can actually foreclose on us. Bill can actually foreclose on us and get his property back because we didn't do what our DTSP said we were going to do, which is continue to perform. So this is a protection mechanism that really helps our sellers understand and be comfortable with doing subject to, because again, we're not just asking them, hey, trust me, I'm going to go pay this for you. What we're saying, and here's my phrasing that I always tell my sellers whenever we're getting into this situation, which should really help you, is say, look, you're $7,000 behind on payments, right? I'm going to catch those payments up, and I'm going to pull this house out of foreclosure, saying this is a foreclosure scenario. I'm going to pull this house out of foreclosure, and I'm going to go ahead and start making payments on your behalf moving forward. Now, let's say that something does happen. Let's say that a meteor hits, and all of my buyers and renters are all watching the Cowboys at AT&T Stadium, and they're all gone, and all of a sudden I've got no income coming in at all, and so I just can't make your payment anymore. If I were to stop making your payment, you get to foreclose on me and get this property back. Now, the beautiful thing about that is that I already caught you back up. I pulled you out of foreclosure. I've been making the payments for however long, 3, 4, 5 years. So now instead of owing 70, you might owe 50, 60. And ideally, property values should be going up. I mean, I'm not promising that they will, because we know it's a up and down. So let's say that you did have to foreclose on me in 5 years. Well, guess what? You've had your property paid down. You've had your credits restored for the next 5 years. Your house is all of a sudden worth more than it was. And you're in a better scenario than you are right now. So my question to you is, if your worst case scenario is better than the situation you're sitting in right now, why would you not move forward with it? There's my pitch. There's my subject to pitch. That's how you get somebody on board with this deal.
And I can assume another softball you could throw out there would be, but the reality is, I'm doing this because I want to make money. I'm not trying to just screw you over.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because if I don't make payments, I just gave you $25,000.
Yeah.
Do you think I'm not in this business to lose money? I'm not in business to give you 5, 10, or whatever, and then not pay the note.
Yes, you're absolutely right. I usually will follow it up with something very similar, saying, but look, here's the thing. Is my job as an investor, I only get to make money as long as this asset is mine.
Right.
So I'm going to be putting up a lot of money to make this asset mine. I'm catching up your payments. I'm making the payments. I'm putting up a lot of money to make sure that I get ownership of this. And that's when I start getting to make money on it. It makes no sense for me to let this asset come back to you, because then I stop being able to make money. This goes back to my original, like I talk about a lot in the negotiation series about how be very upfront about, hey, I'm here to make money. I think too many of the newer investors, too many of you guys sitting out there, if I were to, exactly, if I were to ask you right now, why do you do this? If I was a seller asking you, why are you doing this? And I want you to seriously think, what would your answer be? And if your answer in your mind is, I'm here to help people out, it's because I like helping people out, just gag me and let me throw up right now. That's not why. If you were here to help people out, you'd be working for a great cause like Trusted World, plug, Trusted World Charity, Red Cross, somebody like that. You would be going to, if you wanted to help people, that's what you would be doing. You're doing this business because there's a lot of zeros at the end of the check.
Speaking of plug, now's a great time to say, like and share the video. It looks like we don't have that many people watch at the moment, but you know what? That's only because we haven't shared enough, we haven't liked enough. So do us a favor, like it, share it, spread the word. Grant's coming in here every single week to give some free knowledge. If you see what we're doing here, this shit ain't free. I mean, this right here seems basic, but it's basic because he's making it basic. I mean, that education is probably thousands and thousands worth of dollars. So please like it, please share it. At the end of this video, we're going to do a book giveaway for one of his favorite books, Persuasion, Robert
Cialdini.
Yes. So like it, share it, give us some love. Likes across the stream, hearts across the stream.
Right.
Stream?
I don't know.
Stream, whatever. Anyway, but help us out.
Yeah, exactly. Likes and shares are good.
And
I want to point out too, I mean, he says it's free. It's free to you guys. This is not free information. You know, this is a philosophy that Propelio and myself share, that it's really important that you actually get real content out of it. A lot of times, the reason why I'm saying this, a lot of times people feel free and they you want to associate, but this takes tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to put something like this together. You guys are becoming the benefactor of that because Propelio has a mission to get real education out there and help investors be where they need to be. And you know, I also encourage you to check out their software, Propelio.com, and look at the CRM and look at the leads that you get from there and the ability to run comps, even if you're not a licensed agent. It's kind of a give and take. We want to give you real content. We want to make sure that you really understand what's going on, and that's why you're getting real education that a lot of people are paying thousands of dollars for. But it all comes, you know, at a price to them. So encourage them on that side too. But let's jump right back in here. So
we were talking about just to catch you back up.
Yeah.
We were talking about how the pitch to the people of how to the sellers of why they're doing this, and then also combating rebuttals before they even do it. And then but I'm trying to make money.
Absolutely.
So me if I'm trying to help you.
I know. Yeah. Thank you for reminding me. Yes.
And we're back.
That's the thing is when somebody asks you why you're doing this, I always make it very clear to them right from the beginning. This is my business. This is how I make money. This is how I put food on my table. Right. When they ask me why I'm doing this, look, I do this because it makes me money. But it's also nice that I am able to help people out that are in a tough situation like yours. And at the end of the day, I'm going to be able to help a buyer out that wouldn't have otherwise been able to get a mortgage. So it is nice. There's secondary and tertiary benefits that I am helping people. But this is how I make my money. And this is all part of a persuasion, which those of you who read the book and who will get it will understand, is that you start your sales pitch from the moment you start talking to that person. So little plugs like that right from the beginning, finding something, a way to plug it in and say, hey, I'm here because this makes me money, is going to help you down the road. Whenever they start asking for things from you, you get to really quickly knock that out and just say, hey, that just doesn't make business sense for me. I'm sorry, that doesn't make business sense. We're going to have to come to another agreement. And then you give them a solution that does work, but it really helps you, because if you say, I just like helping people, then they're going to pull your heartstring and they're going to say, man, I really need $5,000. I really need that.
I'm glad you threw out that nugget. It's like, it doesn't make business sense to me, because it's like, this is a business. I am here to make money. And saying it like that, just very bluntly, you know, just rip the duct tape off, doesn't make sense. And
I've found a huge and positive response from my sellers when I say stuff like that. And you'd be surprised how often I've got a seller that comes back to me and they're like, oh, no, I get it. I want you to make money. That's totally cool, you know. That happens more often than not. Probably 80% of the time, that's the response we get. So use that nugget. Use that when you're negotiating these deals. So I gave you how to pitch the subject to, how to pitch kind of one of the combating one of the things that they might be coming back to you with. But this is where we really need to make them feel empowered. I will typically tell them when I'm talking about this scenario, Guy, you are at the top of the totem pole. If I don't do like I said I'm going to do, you get to take the house back from me, and you're in a better situation than you were to begin with. And what we've done here is, again, they've set up a lien to us. We are the owner of the house. We have the warranty deed. When they sign that warranty deed over to us, the reason why I put it over on this side is that they are no longer associated in any way to the ownership of that property. So that allows us to do a lot of things over here. You can rent this property. You can sell this property with owner financing as a wraparound mortgage, and we'll talk about that on another episode. You can do anything. You can flip this property. You can do anything you want. This property is yours. Subject to is very specific to an acquisition model that allows you to buy by taking over on the payments that they owe. Owner financing is a blanket term, and I want to be clear that owner financing is like saying, so you can say you're a real estate investor, and then within that you're a flipper or a wholesaler or a whatever. Owner financing is kind of the same way. You've got owner financing. You can do subject to, you can do wraparound mortgages, you can do assignments. There are different ways to do owner financing. Subject to is an acquisition model. This is a way you buy your houses. I do not want you to sell a house with Sub2 because you will end up losing a lot of money on the table through what you could have gotten with arbitrage and charging different interest rates and some really cool stuff that really makes you a lot of money. But subject to allows you to get into that property.
So you ready for the curveball?
I'm ready for the curveball.
This right here, deed of trust to, I'm not going to look at it, secure performance.
Good job.
That sounds complicated as hell. Now, is that something that I can download off Google Documents or?
Yeah, so you want to work with a good attorney if you're going to do this kind of stuff. If you're going to do,
how do I determine who's a good attorney for that type of model?
Totally. Well, here in the DFW area, there's a couple that do a lot of this. Scott Horn from Horn and Associates has been around for 35 years doing owner financing. He's one of my business partners. We bought a lot of houses together. He's who I would go to for Texas owner financing, that kind of stuff. Horn and Associates. There's also Galen Lonergan Rogers, who does a lot of this kind of stuff. Victor Moss down in San Antonio does a lot of this stuff. I think Acock moved to another state, didn't he? Matt Acock?
No,
Is he still here?
He's going to be here Friday.
Oh, okay, perfect. Okay, Matthew Acock from Pratt, is it Pratt Acock? I can't remember their firm's name. Matthew Acock. He's another guy that can get this kind of stuff done. But what you want to look for is you want to look for other investors who have done this stuff, and you want to find what attorneys they're using. So go to your RIA clubs, go to your local networking groups, and figure out who's out there getting this stuff done and who has some really good information for you and experience for you from the legal standpoint, because you do need to get this done. There's a lot of pitfalls. There's a lot of ways that you could screw up in this business.
I know with a basic trade contract, it's like, oh, cool,
Yeah.
10 pages, I'm out.
Yeah.
You know, or hell, 1 page assignment, I'm out.
I know.
But like the Sub2 contract, it's like, oh.
Yeah, subject. So just as a point of reference, right? The TREC contract, the state promulgated form for buying just a standard real estate transaction is 9 pages long. We do that TREC contract for owner financing, but I also have a 36 or something page long addendum that goes along with it to describe everything that's happening here. Now, this is another moment that I want to give you guys a nugget because here's something that a lot of you are going to have just heard, okay, I have to do a 9-page contract and a 35-page contract, and you're going to say, I will never do that because my seller will never sign that. And that is projection. That is you being scared of the contract and acting like you're saying no to it because of your seller.
You're afraid they're going to walk away.
You're afraid that they're going to walk away, but it's only because you're afraid of the contract. I get contracts done all the time, subject to, with that big of a contract package, and it's not a problem at all whatsoever. But you're going to get scared of that contract and you want to walk away from it. And so I really encourage you, don't use those stupid 1-page contracts. Don't use some stupid little 2-page contract. Protect yourself. Protect yourself. If you're doing a business like this, there are a lot of ways that you can pitfall. And we want to make sure that you are protected in the long run so that if something does come back, that you got it set up right from the beginning, full disclosure. This is all about full disclosure. You've got to make sure that everybody understands everything that's going on, and if they understand what's going on, if they understand things like due on sale clause and the fact that their note is going to be their name is going to be on that note moving forward, and they choose to move forward with you, then it is an ethical move. Go ahead, get it done. Never sweep anything under the rug. Never try to not disclose something to work out for your favor. Use the long contracts and take care of it from there. Now, due on sale clause is going to be one of the things, one of the more common responses that us investors are going to have to a subject to transaction is, what about the due on sale clause? And I'll give you the short story of it, because we can talk for way too long on due on sale clause. But the due on sale clause says, hey, if it's in the deed of trust, by the way, it's in almost every deed of trust. Due on sale clause says, if you sell this property, the bank has the right, but not the obligation, they have the option to ask for the remainder of that note to be due. Okay? They can call that note. And they've got that primarily because you think about a standard transaction like we talked about before. If they're selling the house, they need something in writing that says, look, I need my money if you sell the house. That you can't just leave that sitting out there and take the money and run with it. Right. So what we're doing here with subject to absolutely 100% does trigger the due on sale clause, and I really stress that word trigger because a lot of people want to say violate. You're not violating a due on sale clause. The due on sale clause does not say you have to remain the owner of this property, and if you do not remain the owner of this property and you don't sell and you don't pay off our note, then we're going to call it because you've done something wrong. What it says, the due on sale clause, is if you sell the property, we have the option to ask for the remainder of the note to be due. You have triggered that clause. So they could, at any point in time forward after this transaction where you've bought it subject to, this bank does have the right to ask for that note to be paid off. However, what do banks want?
Money.
Banks want money, and they want their payments. My joke that I always say with our sellers is that if the bank wanted real estate, they'd be called Coldwell Banker. They wouldn't be called Bank of America, right? They want their money. So historically speaking, as long as the payments are being made, these banks aren't calling the due on sale clause. Our office has seen over 10 or 15,000 at this point in time real estate subject to transactions occur over this past 30, 35 years. And out of that, we've seen 5 or 6 due on sale clauses get called. It is very unlikely that the due on sale clause gets called whenever you are doing things the right way with your attorneys and proper disclosures and all that kind of stuff. But it can happen. And this person needs to be aware of that.
So nitty gritty. So Bill is ghosted out. Miss Investor's here. How does Miss Investor talk to the bank?
That's a really good question. So what happens here, that finishes out our triangle. What happens here is that now that we have, yeah, you did. You teed that up really well. We've got a deed of trust to secure performance. Now what's going to happen is you're going to pay the bank directly every month. You're going to pay them your payments. Okay? Yeah, can you write that one down for me? So what's happening is when you make these payments, you're just sending the check in with the account number and for the proper amount and all that kind of stuff that's owed here. But you're going to pay the bank directly. Now there is another way to go about doing this, which is using third-party servicing. But again, that's a discussion for another day. I do really encourage everyone out there to use a third-party servicer if you are going to be doing a wraparound mortgage. But right up front, this is how the triangle works. Bank and Bill have a note and deed of trust. Bill has a DTSP with you. You pay the payments to the bank directly. You have bought the house subject to.
Speaking of third party authorization, see what I did? That one was more subtle.
It was very subtle.
Very subtle.
Part of your contracts when you buy this property should be what's called an authorization to release information and a power of attorney. I get a power of attorney for myself and for my number one employee at my office from every seller that I have. And what we do is we file that power of attorney and we file that authorization to release information with the bank directly so that the bank knows that Bill has approved them to talk to us. Okay? So my authorization to release is going to say my company name on it. because when you call the bank, they're going to say, what company are you with? And you're going to say, whatever, Triple Equity, and they're going to, that way your employees can talk to them as well. My authorization says Triple Equity and its employees, okay?
Going on behalf of Bill.
Right, and so you call, you're going to have to give Bill's social, you're going to have to give Bill's account number, and then the bank is going to answer, and they're going to say, hey, Bill, and you're going to say, actually, this isn't Bill, this is Grant. I have an authorization to release information on file with you under Triple Equity, and they're going to take a minute or two and look it up, and they're going to, okay, cool, let's go forward with it. Sometimes there's stuff that cannot be done purely from an authorization to release, and that's where we start running into needing that power of attorney. Insurance stuff is a big one of those items, power of attorneys, and insurance is a whole slew of information, again, in and of itself. There's a lot of modules that go into making this work correctly. But when I say I got a power of attorney for myself and my number one employee, I do. I get my power of attorney from them to my name, but I also get it in Fabiola's name. And I want to be very clear here. I do this for two reasons. One is that if I'm doing this class, and right now one of my my properties has an issue that we need to get handled with a bank, I can't call the bank, but Fabiola can. So Fabiola calls them and gets them taken care of. Now, I think it's very important that you understand if you're going to do that, don't just hire some random person and then start getting power of attorneys from your sellers. You've got to
7-Eleven and never comes back.
that goes to 7-Eleven and never comes back. You need to hire, and you need to have worked with this person for a long time, have a background check on them when you do your hires. Fabiola is somebody that I have. She has signing abilities on all of my bank accounts. I trust her with my life. If you don't trust this person with your life and signing privileges on all of your bank accounts and to have power of attorney for you, do not get power of attorney for that person from your seller. We need to do the right thing by our seller because that is a lot of power.
So when communicating with the bank, what should you hypothetically not send them?
So what you don't want to do is you don't want to be...
I say hypothetically because I may have broken this rule.
You don't want to do... You want to give them just enough information that they're asking for. And we want to do our best to avoid saying that this person has sold their property. We might say that we're managing these payments for them, right? We're managing this property for them at that point in time, and that's our relationship to them with the bank. Because while the bank doesn't typically call due on sale, we want to do our best job to not dangle it in front of them and say, you should call the due on sale because these things are occurring.
Because if they're fully aware that Bill no longer owns it and Susie, the investor, owns it, they're most likely to call the note?
Well, not necessarily, but we don't want to force their hand. There's lots of our banks that know what's going on exactly, especially like if we've gotten financing from one of our community banks. If you're going to get financing, by the way, to do owner financing and end up selling it with owner financing, that kind of stuff, let your bank know what you're doing. You don't want to run into that. But like these Wells Fargos and Chases and the big boys over here, we're not sending them like a closing disclosure that says, hey, this is us buying the house. We're just coming in, we're making the payments. They don't need to know everything that's going on. Now, part of that, I should point out, is that in Texas state law, part of it does talk, and here's another thing, just to preface this. A lot of times people will hear subject to, specifically realtors. Realtors like to think that anything that's not a traditional sale going between them that they've heard of or landlording, that it's illegal. It's not illegal. Texas Property Code actually does lay out how to correctly do a subject to transaction with underlying lending. It has it in the Texas Property Code. It says follow these rules. That's part of why the disclosures are what we have over here. Totally legal. Now, in that property code, it does talk about giving disclosure to the underlying lender. Now, my attorneys have taken the stance, which I trust my attorneys on, that as long as there is a waiver signed by our seller saying that we're waiving that position of it, that we're still in good legal means for this transaction. So like with many things, if you're doing something, make sure that you get your attorney's approval on it. So all that to say, we don't send them that disclosure saying that the property is being sold. We just go ahead and do the subject to transaction. And again, we've got a lot of time and a lot of properties under our belt showing that that is fine and works.
I'm wrapping up a couple questions here. If you have questions for Grant or for me, which I doubt it's for me because Grant's the one with the brain, drop them in the comments below. We're going to get to those very quickly here. So questions, let us know.
Absolutely.
On that, I'm glad you brought up attorney fees. Or not fees, but attorneys. Like, as a real estate investor, we're all broke. I don't care how many millions of dollars worth of assets we have. if we have money in our pocket, it's not being utilized. So what worries me is I hear a 30, 35 page document from an attorney. I don't know why I did that, but what kind of fees should I expect with that? Like, for the right to use, because I know with Scott Horn, you have to pay for the right to use his document.
Correct.
And every single page is copywritten.
Right.
So let's jump into that.
Yeah.
Just
So
because we're all broke.
What you're going to run into is you're going to run into anything from $300 to about $2,000. Okay. Don't go with the $300 attorney. If you're doing subject to, don't do it. Some attorneys will say, yeah, if you want to close on a deal, it's just going to take a deed of trust and a warranty deed, and we'll get that done for you for $450. That's not going to give you the protections that you need because you need those disclosures, okay? You need subject to disclosures. So look to spend somewhere between $1,000 and $1,750 on your acquisition disclosures with that. Now, I know a lot of the attorneys, like I mentioned earlier, will if they'll discount it if you're doing the front end and the back end. In other words, like say that you're going to do a wraparound mortgage on this. We'll get into those on another episode. And they know they've got 2 closings up. They'll do half price for one of them. And as you're selling the property, you should always charge all the closing costs to your buyer anyway. So that's not coming out of your pocket. So you should expect to pay $1,000, $1,700 for this closing. But the cool thing is that in subject to, we're closing with an attorney. We're not closing through a title company. So we don't get title insurance on subject to properties. So that money that you would have expected to pay for a closing is going to be about the same. You're actually going to be out a little bit cheaper most of the time by doing a subject to closing because you're not paying the escrow fees and the title company and the title insurance policy.
So how do you protect yourself on that aspect?
So title insurance, again, we'll do an episode on title insurance and subject to. The short story of it is that I don't get it.
You have to do your own research.
You do get a title run, right? You do get a title search done by your attorney. The title search is all the title company does anyway. They do that title run. They make sure that everything's fine. There's title runs and then there's title insurance. What a title company is going to do is they're going to do that run. They're going to make sure that everything is cleared up, and then they're going to insure what they just did.
And then if anything jacks up, you get paid.
If anything jacks up, they're going to cover whatever cost that is. With this scenario, get your attorney to do the title run, but you're not going to get that title insurance. And if something does come up, yes, that is going to be your out-of-pocket cost in the future, but the likelihood of something coming up is extremely slim.
Right.
Those of you out there, think of everybody that you know that's bought real estate, and if they've ever had to make a title insurance claim, you might know 1 or 2 people who have, and even in those title insurance claims, they're typically $5,000 or $6,000 at the most.
So I don't want to get too far in the weeds, but I know if I'm watching this video, whether it be live right now or down the line, I'm like, holy crap, I want to put this in my tool belt.
Yeah.
How do I get this document? Do I call Scott Horn? Do I call Matt Hancock and be like, hey, I want to start using your Sub2 documents? I mean, I know you're not their representative.
Sure.
But is it like, hey, can I schedule a meeting? Is it, hey, can you send me a PDF?
Yeah, so everybody's going to work a little bit differently. Most of the time, the attorney is going to want you to tell them what property you're dealing with, and they'll fill that contract out for you and provide it to you so you can go contract that house.
So it's not it's you get a leg up or you get a lead and you get pretty confident they're going to sign it. Then I go to the lawyer.
That's how a lot of the attorneys like to work it. But what I would encourage you to do is call the attorney, because I don't want to step over I'm taking that answer is very conservative. I will tell you, I have copies of the contract. I fill them out and I go do. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I've also closed like hundreds of deals with these attorneys, so it's a little bit of a different So
if you do it that way, and maybe you have an old document, and then you go to closing, and they're like, this is the old one.
Yeah.
Hypothetically, it allegedly never has happened. So anyway, let's jump into questions. Well, first of all, let me give you a chance to summarize. Give me some meat.
Yeah.
No, I mean, are we done?
We're done here. I think we pretty much summarized everything. Again, we've hit on a lot of specifics that are going to take other episodes to really go into. And then I want to give myself a shameless plug here too as well, that we do have the Propelio Academy. We do have CreativeCashFlow.com, that if you want to have everything at your fingertips and really have modules that train you everything in depth, go check out both of those. You know, the Propelio Academy is going to be launching is the 1st? January, the beginning of the year, Paleo Academy will be launching. We've recorded a lot of stuff on here to train you guys how to do this stuff. Go like me on Facebook at CCF Mentors as well, so that we can continue to get information out to you. And then I also do personal mentoring. If you want somebody to hold your hand a little bit harder, check me out at CreativeCashFlow.com.
Well, real quick, because if I can get it, I know everybody else can get it. Let's do a 30-second
Sure.
summary.
So 30 seconds. Oh, you want to do it? Go.
I want to do it.
Do it.
It's
I love
quiz
it.
Time.
I love it.
It's quiz time. So Bill owns a house, or wherever the house is. He has a deed of trust. He has a note with the house, or whatever, mortgage, or whatever we're going to talk about. Well, that's the deed of trust. Anyway, he owes them money. He wants to sell the house to the investor. Investor's like, well, all the wholesalers are giving me $30,000 less, but you're a Sub2 guy. Yeah, I'll do this. So what he does is he deeds over the house. You agree to not take over payments, but make payments on his behalf.
Exactly.
You get your third-party authorization. You also put this in the deed of trust to secure performance. So if I never pay, he can foreclose on me to get his house back. I have third-party authorization for the bank. I make payments, and now I have the house, and I can either sell it, owner finance it, flip it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Do anything you want with it.
And Bill goes out and gets good credit.
Yeah. And Bill, you know, the point of getting that power of attorney and that authorization release from Bill is you can always tell him, this way you get to wipe your hands entirely of this whole situation. I can handle all the problems. My goal is for you to never have to think about this house again.
But
So
more
he
or less
becomes
is that
Ghost
right?
Bill. You were perfect. You were right on, dude.
All right.
I got it.
Let's see.
All right, so we got some questions. Let's sit back down. I hate standing up.
It's okay. For some reason, the internet hates us.
We have several questions coming up.
I would expect nothing less.
All right, so Helen and Sons asked, where do you typically find these types of leads?
So where do you typically find these types of leads with seller finance or with Subject 2? Again, one of our biggest lead sources for Subject 2 is going to be that foreclosure list. Foreclosure lists are really good because, like I said earlier, what is their better option, getting foreclosed on or selling the house Subject 2? But I do want to point out, any lead that you're getting, any property that you're working can be bought Subject 2. So whether that's your probates or your affidavits of heirship or whatever, appointments of substitute trustee, whatever it is, the leads that you're typically getting, you can buy them with seller financing in Subject 2 as well. The cool thing about that is that instead of having to go get your financing from your hard money lender or your bank, just try and work it in where you can buy it Subject 2 anyway, and now you don't have stuff hitting your credit.
I will say, Randy gave you Randy McFeely said Grant rocks,
Yay, thanks Randy McFeely. I appreciate you. Rock,
and
Randy.
he said I was all right. And then Miranda said I'm off my game.
Royce mentioned that he just recently purchased one 6 months in and called it no due.
Are they? So Royce, I'd be interested to know what bank that was with. I'd also be interested to know. So here's the thing: is that I made a subtle disclosure earlier when I was talking about due on sale clause and saying that if you're doing everything with the right way, and insurance is a big part of that, then historically speaking, and that's how I always say it because I can't promise the future. Historically speaking, we're just not seeing the due on sale clause be called. Most commonly, if the property insurance is done incorrectly, that's going to be the reason that you're getting your note called. So I'll just take a moment right now, since y'all will be able to pause and rewind this in the future and just tell you what your insurance needs to look like. Your insurance, you've got to have a primary mortgagee, which is going to be the bank. You're going to have a, gosh, what is the word I'm looking for? Your, oh my gosh, insured, primary insured is going to be the person's name that you're buying it from, your seller. And then your secondary insured is going to be you. You've got to have your seller's name on that insurance policy, and even more so when you go to do the wrap and your buyer has to get insurance. At that point in time, and I'll go into this quickly now, but again, watch future episodes to learn more about wraps and insurance. You're going to have a primary mortgagee of the bank. Then you'll have a secondary mortgagee of you, your company that gave the wrap to your buyer. You're going to have the primary insured, which is going to be your owner or your seller that sold you the house. And then you're going to have either what's called a secondary insured or an also insured, which is going to be your end buyer. Those all have to be done the right way and put into the escrow account correctly. And if they're not done the right way, if you remove your seller's name off of that insurance policy altogether, which is going to be the go-to way that your insurance group will probably want to do it, that will cause that due on sale clause to get called 99% of the time. So I have found that Alicia Lamb of Texas Best has worked really well for us with owner financing, subject to insurance. She's not the cheapest out there, but she's really good with her service. She really takes care of things. And then there's another one, Victor something that I can't remember. I'll have to get his name, but I can put that in the comments too if you guys are interested in that as well. But I'll finish this up by saying the smaller banks are going to be more likely to call a note than like a Chase or a Wells Fargo or of a Bank of America, one of those guys. And there's one bank that one of the smaller banks that tends to be more likely to call it, and I'm blanking on that name of the bank right now. But that's why I was kind of curious what bank he was using. If you wanted to comment, we can talk about that as well. So just a quick recap. Anytime I'm talking about due on sale clause, I always say historically speaking, because I can't promise in the future, and I always stress, like you saw me stress earlier, they absolutely can call the due on sale clause. Nothing is preventing them from calling the due on sale clause. We're just counting on the odds that they don't, because from our experience, like in all the ones that I've done, I've never had a due on sale clause called. And I've been doing this for many years. And there's one property that may have been getting the due on sale clause called, but I couldn't get really any information from the bank. And to get rid of that, I refinanced out of that mortgage with one of my private lenders and just was done with it. So that, I should count that one, but I don't know that that was a due on sale clause. There was just some weirdness going on with that one.
What's a typical reason the bank would call a due on sale clause?
What's a typical reason that a bank would call a due on sale clause? Well, if payments aren't being made, it is quicker for them to call the due on sale clause and get a property back that way than it is to go through the foreclosure process. So that might occur. And then getting your insurance done incorrectly that's gonna be the number one way that the bank is going to call the due on sale clause. And then the third way that we've seen happen a couple of times in some of these due on sales that we saw was a bank gets sold and the new owner of the bank coming in and calling. Like I said, that there was like 5 or 6 of them. I usually just say under 10 because I don't really know exactly how many, because I'm calling on the experience of others that I know who have done this to say how many have gotten called that I know of. And like 4 of those were from a single bank that got bought out, and the new bank took those due on sale clauses out.
Okay, I've had another question here. They say that subject to takes a long time. Is that true, or what's the case?
Well, I'd like to know what they're clarifying. So the question is, subject to takes a long time. I'd like to clarify on what you mean by takes a long time, because I can close on a subject to deal in a day or two, which is much quicker than you can close on a deal going through traditional means. And like the contracting is going to take longer because you've got more addendums and stuff like that you have to go through to properly contract this. But other than that, I don't know what they would be meaning by subject to takes a long time. I'm not sure what that, maybe takes a long time to understand. I did say at the beginning, there's a lot of turning gears.
Yeah, there's like 30-something pages in the contract. To
Right.
understand every single page would take
Right. But at the end of the day, think about the benefit that you're getting. You're buying houses without having to use any of your capital or credit, right? All of the debt is in somebody else's name. You just get all of the positives. You're buying, and by the way, most of these mortgages are at like a 4% interest rate. Show me the bank that's going to give you an investor loan at 4%, right? So you get great benefits to buying with subject to, and then if you are charging market rent or you are charging 9.5% for an owner finance deal, you're making arbitrage on somebody else's money. So there's just tons and tons of benefits to it. So I'm not sure exactly what they mean by it takes a long time, but.
Right.
I've got another statement here that a big concern that they have is finding a buyer on the other side. They're nervous about being able to get it sold.
Gotcha. So somebody commenting that they are nervous about finding a buyer to buy it from them owner financed, and the reason I chuckle at that is that there's a buyer on every corner. Selling an owner financed property is easy. And especially in an economic downturn. That's one of the big benefits to owner financing is that, I'll take a phrase from Mitch Stephen, who is also a great trainer on this kind of stuff. He says, we're not saying that owner financing is a recession-proof method, but if there was a recession-proof method, it would be owner financing, because we do much better in a crash, because guess what? There's less financing available. But people still have cash. People still want to buy houses, but banks aren't lending. So who are the buyers going to? They're going to us. Well, by the way, if you're in a crash, guess what? more people need to sell their house as well. So not only do we have more people who need to sell their house who are more likely to be upside down or at water, and maybe not underwater, but at water, or not or low equity sellers that you cash buyers can't buy, but as subject to, I can go in and buy a house at 95% of value if it's sub 2 because I'm not putting up anything on the line, right? My risk is just the contract saying I'm going to continue to make those payments. And by the way, when I contract these houses, I get a 60-day option period from my seller, and during that 60 days, I look for a buyer. And when I find a buyer, that's when I close with the seller. And then an hour later, I close with the buyer. I only own the house for an hour or two, but start making the money on it at that point in time.
Right. Well, I think we're wrapped up. I know we had some video issues. We'll have to figure what's going on. We have the internet people coming out this afternoon because it's not having fun with us.
No, that's no good.
But we promise we're not on dial-up. Anyway, we'll do the drawing off camera, and we'll reach out to you. But trust us, trust me. Hey, we'll get we'll pick a winner, and it'll get out there. But if you like what you see, comment, like, share, help other people get this knowledge. And we'll see you next time. Grant, lovely as always.
Thank you.
We'll see you next week for episode 7 of Grant,
Yes.
Teach me something. Until next time, we'll see you then.